I'm a different kind of cop. We knock down the doors other cops don't want to. Taking fire from every scumbag in town. They didn't earn it. I don't feel bad about taking it.
All about bringing force down on the street. Why don't y'all take a look at what you got going on under your own roof?
I never put the money above us.
How long you think that's gonna last?
I don't want Vic in our lives anymore.
You're investigating me?
Vic Mackey beats suspects. He deals drugs. And that's just all in one day. I wonder what he's gonna do tomorrow. Everybody down!
Hey, my day's just getting started.
It's been a minute.
It sure has.
There's no shortage of physical media.
Yeah, my life has changed dramatically since I last talked to you. So it's gonna be an interesting
for the better. We can't not talk about the Shield, so we have just decided, we could talk about the favorite moments. The last time we had Ryan Verrill on to discuss our favorite moments on The Office, and Oreo is always a treat with how he dissects an anime, sums up how vibrant the colors complement a narrative in a comic book. He's one of those guys. So we all got our noggins ready to go. We're all ready to dive into a show that is guaranteed to not only traumatize one, but also just shatter your mind. Like it was one of the first shows I wanted to binge, but before that was a thing. But at the same time, I got a headache just watching an episode. It was so good.
Yeah.
Were you there from day one, or were you kind of like some of the rest of us where you got into it a few years after it had ended?
For me, I got kind of lucky. I happened to have this is really funny, but my parents introduced the show to me.
Whoa, Mom, Dad.
I had just moved out of my house. Had just graduated high school. I was doing some odd jobs. Just moved out and came back for like
hopefully
a dinner.
Not stealing money from the Armenians, right?
Not yet. I was still fairly young.
Yet.
I had a lot to learn yet. Yeah, so I was fairly young, and I came back for like a family dinner, and my dad was like, "You got to see the show." And I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in some of the areas that are referenced in a couple of episodes of this town. I was born in a sort of like an outskirts of LA little suburb, and then we moved up to the high desert, and there's a couple storylines where they refer, I believe in this show, this is the one that it was referred to as Sad Town. They
kind of like
a couple...
closer. They do take some existing places and then give it a nickname.
Yeah, it's basically the place, and this has been proven to happen before. In LA, they used to take a couple of the gangbangers and put them on like a Greyhound bus that was only going to the tiny little desert town that I grew up in. And then they would live there for the rest of their life, basically, because
I believe
they're like the biggest, baddest man in the town now.
Dallas PD here got in a bunch of issues with putting homeless on the bus.
Yep.
It's just like, good grief, that doesn't solve the problem. And those people are still people, but yeah, it's, yeah.
Get on the bus, get in the back.
Oh,
Miss Frizzle's at the wheel.
Oh my God.
Are we going on another field trip with the friends?
No, yeah, if Rosa Parks were still with us, she'd be just shaking her head. She'd be like, really? Really? This is what society has come to? Yeah, no, that's a good point, though, too. I mean, because the show does bring up the whole turf wars and how, and I knew other people who loved kind of badasses like Charles Bronson who would watch this, and they would literally have their mind shattered because it was more than just another NYPD Blue or SVU type show. You know, they had the guys who worked on The Wire also, and Homicide also work on this, and you got Sean Ryan, you know, who brought some of his crew from Nash Bridges, but they wanted more of a Serpico Training Day type feel. So it's just interesting how, and many of the writers were also horror fans, so that's why they'd have all these disturbing crime scenes and dark humor. And you're like, good grief, there's so many elements, and they work. Anyone else, if they tried it, would probably be too many cooks. You know?
Well, and this is the first like actual cable show, not premium show like HBO,
Yeah.
but actual cable show that pushed many of these boundaries. There are many scenes in the show that were controversial, is kind of putting it lightly.
Other than
like,
South Park, there weren't many who wanted to attempt it. They weren't interested in FCC standards. They're like, we'll just have a few uses of shit and maybe some references, but we're not gonna have actual like morbid crime scenes that get under your skin or
right. South Park wasn't showing a detective hitting on a dead prostitute's side boob.
yeah.
And
There wasn't semen at a crime scene on South Park. Yeah, there wasn't. There wasn't anything involving just demented serial killers who had just weird confessions, and seeing just the trauma going for these detectives who are just like, I don't feel like I can perform normally tomorrow at my job. You know?
Oh yeah.
And the bad guy is the main character. So, and I do applaud Michael Chiklis, who, when Bravo TV, back when they were still a real big thing before they kind of sold out to being reality TV, they did like top 50 villains back in the day, and he was featured on there. And he's like, my character is a mixture of Hannibal Lecter and Tony Soprano.
And before that, he was the commish.
Right. And I'm not a good cop anymore. And it's so funny how the directors were like, I don't see him as this, but he had shaved his head. He had lost some weight by working out in the gym. And you do look at the audition tape, which you can find on YouTube if anyone wants. And you're just like, man, that is just so creepy.
Hell of a heel turn.
Yeah. Kudos to anyone, because, and I'm glad you did bring up the edginess, because like now that movie stars are now taking advantage of doing TV, it is interesting seeing how Chiklis has kind of done a similar thing where he kind of recreates himself. He's been on Gotham, American Horror Story. I actually think many people would like the show Coyote, but it just came out at the turn of the pandemic and no one saw it. But same kind of deal. He was playing a crooked border patrol cop.
Nice.
On Paramount.
This was the show that inspired pretty much everything that's come after it, that was either successfully edgy or the really bad ones that were really trying hard to be edgy and couldn't be. But this is what came first. This is what a lot of those shows, this is the bar that they were held to. And a lot of people, they go back to Breaking Bad because it hit mainstream right when Netflix was getting big. But really, this is where the bar started, is what The Shield.
And that unfortunately not many know that Sony was the one who pushed for both of these shows, but many thought it just started with Breaking Bad. It's like, well, okay, Breaking Bad might have made it more addicting, but yeah, Shield was the one where you're like, FX has to be edgy. It can't just show reruns of, Fox-owned shows anymore. It's gotta. But that is true. I mean, TNT and A&E would do some edgy shows where I'm like, yeah, they're definitely aping the Shield there, if not Jack Bauer.
Duck Dynasty was so edgy.
Oh my god! Can you imagine Vic buying like drugs or weapons from those guys? He'd be like in exchange, be like, "What are you dumb hicks in here for now?"
I think of the edgiest show on A&E, fucking Storage Wars.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, get him.
Oh my god.
You see him shoot him? Yeah. Look out, Lim. Yeah. Fuck that.
Well, and kudos to the actors. They had worked together before. Both Lim and played by Kenny Johnson, and Shane, played by Walton Goggins. They were in Major League Free. But I mean, it has been fun seeing them before they were famous, let alone in other roles, because they owe so much to this, but they're just so talented in their own right. So I mean, I do think unlike Sopranos, they most of the cast really did go on to even better and cooler stuff after, to where they already have like a top 10 list you can name off, you know?
Oh, easily,
Yeah,
especially Walton Goggins.
right. Now with Sopranos, other than Imperioli and Falco and Gandolfini, I would kind of struggle because the other guys have kind of just done supporting stuff and just or done cameo roles parodying their Sopranos roles. It just,
Well, that, and we're at the point now where we can actually tie Sopranos to The Shield in sort of an off way.
yes.
we have a actor that was in both that well, not in The Shield and Sopranos, although there are a lot of crossovers on that actually too. But the big one that I'm getting at is, of course, in The Sopranos we have Christopher's fiance,
Trey
girlfriend
DiMaggio?
Drea. Yeah, she was also in Sons of Anarchy, which is
Yes.
attached
Oh,
to The
yeah.
Shield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had to tell some other pals of mine, they didn't believe it. I'm like, guys, listen to the Shattered Shield podcast. Sean Ryan confirms it while talking about it. He gave that head writer who also plays that one serial killer
Yep.
on the show that Vic kills, is like, yeah, he wanted to reuse that same fictional 49ers gang. I mean, the Boslats, that other violent elegant gang, are
Yep.
sell nuclear weapons on the final season of The Unit, another
Yep.
Sean Ryan production. And see, I thought that was just a rumor at first, but I went back and confirmed it, and they're still doing it. There was a few other canceled narc shows that were styled as The Shield, and they had some of the same writers, and they would use the Boslats and 49ers. Right now, Billings, the pervy detective, he appeared on SWAT, and same thing. Sean Ryan's like co-producer, but I knew that even before then, because by the third episode of that first season, the 49ers took over a prison. I think they're a cool gang because they hide behind their faith, and you just think there's going to be violence just because they're so intimidating, even if it doesn't get to that point. And Vic, it's just so funny how he plays everybody for a fool. They're like, oh, he's a douche, he's an asshole, but we had no idea he pulled off all these unthinkable,
Except for Claudette, she caught on to his ass.
Yeah, well, that's just it. She always had a bad feeling, but because of the shield and the blue wall, so to speak, and just all these other politics and dealing with her own health, is like no one has time to babysit him. And shame on Aceveda for saying he's an awful person, but we kind of actually need him to do some stuff. And that's what's also just twisted too, is how Aceveda, he's just like, I should like him, but he's also on making me unsettled. Just, what's his agenda?
Him and his rape fetish.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, it's like they would also that was actually one of the first episodes I ever saw, and I was like, oh my goodness,
he's sucking a penis.
Well,
and then he's getting into a hooker and doing the same shit.
Yeah, he keeps going to his wife, I'm okay, and it's like, you're not okay. That is a traumatic thing.
Honey. I love you. It's okay. It's okay. Why do I like the taste of hot dogs so much?
And then he becomes a politician, and you're like, oh no, dude, you're gonna cross the lines there. Some fans have had a hysterical theory that he probably goes on to kill the one guy who's trying to blackmail him.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, I can actually see that. I don't know why. Because he's not one for violence, but he also, I mean, he is one of those where once he goes to the dark side by like season 3, you're just like, yeah, it's all downhill from here. And that's the other thing too, is just Vic is charismatic, but you love to hate him. You're just like, and then you see all these, much like Tony, the fact that they begin the first episode where he's at a barbecue and you're getting to know him is the same kind of scenario. It's like, let's sit down to eat. And so we already know how he thinks. And at first we think he's an imperfect, prickly guy who happens to be the good guy. And it's like, nope, he's a scumbag. He just happens to be a narc by day. And in a way, he's almost kind of like the Punisher too. But if Frank Castle lost it, and just said, "I'm gonna clean up the crime, and then I'm gonna blackmail people who are onto me," it's just it. It is also just one of those you really honestly cannot take your eyes off it, and but yeah, there is plenty of crossover, and I did see some other people who had been on Law and Order, CSI, and 24, and not as much Sopranos, but I did see some. I do think it and Oz have some similar stuff where it uses the shock value to get you to pay attention to some hot topics, but
Right.
unfortunately, most people were responding to just the disturbing content as opposed to kind of listening. But I mean, still, many people will often put it on best TV shows of all time. I've seen many listed as one of the best finales ever, and I've seen some people complain about it briefly, but I think it was just one of those. Season 6 was a breather. Is like Lim is dead. Now what's going to happen? And then season 7, is now everybody's going to get caught, die, or go to prison.
Well, also, this is before we had the trope of whatever the big show is, like Breaking Bad famously did it, where they took their last season and broke it into 2 different parts, like a season 5A,
Battlestar
season 5B.
Galactica did it a bit, but yeah, it was before you could. I mean, you could do it with some shows, but most people had just cable and TiVo if they wanted the extra expense. And if they didn't have cable at all, they would just go to Blockbuster and either buy the whole set or rent it. And I'm telling you guys, renting discs back then was the worst because the first 2 discs would always be out of stock. So you didn't know how to begin the show.
I still have my full complete series set that I bought on DVD way back, like about 4 months after the last season aired.
I gave mine to another podcast friend, but I want to get the new remastered Blu-ray pack because it just looks so good. You've never seen the show look that detailed.
Yeah, but the whole splitting the season in half thing, that season 6 is basically a lead-in, and
it really is.
A lot of people were pissed off at the end of it because it just felt. I mean, it felt like they were getting edged. Essentially, it was like, "Oh, here we go. Oh, now we got to wait 7 months to see."
Do you remember the
ending.
promos for it, where you see Vic and Shane at a tombstone? You're like, "What is that? What is that?
Yep.
Who died?"
It was a big deal. That was before all the Walking Dead marketing got just like that.
Fun fact: Neil Montarazzo, I think is his name. Yeah. Vince somebody. Yeah, he went on to write for Walking Dead, actually.
Yep.
But no, that is true. I mean, the split ups. I mean, the 10 episode deal too. I mean, Stabler from SVU is back on his own show, and I feel them taking some inspiration from it too. Just that whole have a Vice Squad, but that's not like any other Vice Squad. Have some guys who are breaking the rules and look forward. I mean, J-Lo and Ray Liotta had a show that was on for 3 years that was pretty good called Shades of Blue. So, but I do feel that every once in a while I'll see a critic who in their movie or TV review will say, "I feel like Vic Mackey is in the show." I'm like, "Oh, I see what you are. I see what you're a fan of." There's plenty of running gags for a show that often has
Dutch boy.
Oh, Dutch! You're gonna go with Dutch just right in like that. It's kind of wild how you needed a straight man, but often he's getting his ass kicked by like the most simplest, easy to crack case, or he's being made a fool and he doesn't know how or what he missed. It is wild just seeing a straight man in this seedy underbelly of unprofessional characters and other just the fact that he also has to embrace evil. He has to figure out why do serial killers kill, and that gets dark. But yeah, he takes an interest in Danny, and Danny is already kind of in a triangle with Vic, and you're like, oh my god, you fell for the bad boy. Why? It is wild too how Billings is playing pranks on people. He is like the most unhelpful detective ever. It was just also just wild how I think it avoided being soapy by just again just like you're just going in so many directions. One minute you're being thrilled, and the next minute you're being horrified. Then you're also just like, what the hell is happening in this cold open? It's not about who got murdered so much as it is uh what is happening right now, and how is this going to affect the rest of the season. Yeah.
Right.
What's her name? Paula Garza's character was pretty cool. Tina, I thought that was cool. It's like, here we got a rookie, and Danny instantly tells you, don't get comfortable. This is not the division to start flirting with other officers and detectives. And the fact that Shane also gives Vic a run at for his money, because like he we've talked before about people who have no identity. Like we were talking about some of the Wire characters who don't know why they even exist. And isn't so funny how Shane, you think, is just going to be the yes man to Vic, but yeah, Lemonhead starts having regrets, and and Shane is just willing to just do extra cover-ups to where you're like, good God, why is it wild how Vic wouldn't cross that line, but he would, and vice versa? Vic will gladly murder this drug dealer, but Shane will think twice unless he's got backup. It's just like, and the fact that they start hiding crimes from each other is also a lot of fun. And I mean, just from that first season alone, when they start having their own tactical plan, in their own like Vice Squad room, and they're playing heavy metal and eating oversaturated pizza. They're the perfect example of toxic masculinity before that was a thing. And but to be fair, their soundtrack was Kid Rock, so we should have known. But it's so funny.
Kid Rock is actually the son of a multi-millionaire apple orchard owner.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the irony. It never stops.
I know, it's fucking cowboy my ass. I pick my apples from the orchard, baby.
Right. And they're just going in
them
there.
Quarters.
What do you remember in that final season how Vic, it might actually be the second to last, he thinks he's unstoppable and he starts trying to stop a few people, and he like holds on to like a car when he's stopping another gangbanger?
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was just wild too. It's just showing that he's almost at the end of his line. He can't.
He's desperate. Yeah, it's the first time in the show that he hasn't controlled everything.
He's so good at just making other people look like an asshole, and to where it even makes you wonder what his upbringing was. Was he the guy who just said, "Mom, make me pasta"? Like was he the football quarterback who kicked everybody's ass but had no friends at graduation? That makes you wonder.
The family angle for him really gave him his humanity.
Exactly. Like he will do anything for them, but then he wants to be loved by them. Then he being the sneak, being the,
and that was actually his daughter too.
That's why I thought it was so raw and real. It's just like, and it's so funny how he does the whole "I want to take my daughter to work" day. It's like I thought for almost, and I love how they had Franco Potente, who you might know as Jason Bourne's love interest, as the one Russian assassin. Like, no, she had assassins, but she was like part of a big gang empire, and like she talks to Shane, is like, by the way, I've targeted your entire Vice Squad.
Yeah, she's one of the Armenians.
That Armenian, yes, my bad. I know I had something screwed up, but I always thought that is so funny. Is like, and Shane is like, Vic is so collected. Like he can just lie, and he will know exactly what he said and remember that lie and die by that. And it's so funny how Shane, after a while, will ask other pals for help, and sometimes those guys end up getting beat up by Antoine Mitchell. And I loved how they had, this was definitely the first thing I saw Michael Pena on. There was some cool interviews how he was in Crash that same year, but they filmed that before that, believe it or not. And I like how he refuses. It's in the season where Glenn Close takes over as the lieutenant.
Season 4.
And
that's the gold season.
It's a great season, but I love how he's refusing to take a drug test. Everybody else is all
Lie
collected
detector
like
test, not drug
lie
test.
detector. My bad. Yes. Okay. But I thought I could have sworn there was like a piss test or something. But anyway, you know it better than me. But I love how like he goes on Shane on a few different angles and it's like they get their asses beat up. And he's like, "This isn't what I signed up for, man." It's like you're doing something you shouldn't even be doing. And I love how
And poor Gardock, he's just so quiet.
And that is probably the thing that I dislike about the show the most is they flat out ignore Ronnie for, I don't know, the
yeah,
entire 7 seasons, like 5.5 seasons at least.
he was hired as an extra for the first episode, and they
Yep.
slowly started giving him lines and everything. I know his wife, also an actress, was one of the other desk clerks. But yeah, I like his comeuppance, but in between, there are times where, like, other than like saving Shane and company from some of the Armenian assassins, he really doesn't get much to do. To where you're like, however, I will give you the first season. It's just so wild how, for a while, he's kind of the Kenny of South Park of the show, where he gets his face burned by Amarero, and that's Danny Pino before he was on Mayans and SVU. And I'm like, good grief, it's just it. And the dude is very talented, and I think he's a very underrated Latino actor. But he said in an interview later on that he was molested, like by an uncle of his. I'm like, oh my god, how did you get to be on this rapist slash gangster and then be on SVU? I mean, that'd be some traumatic material. But I guess he got some serious therapy. But that's what's also
Get
just
your inspiration from somewhere.
right. But it's just so, I guess, but it's just so funny how like he burns Ronnie, on the stove, and Vic decides, you know what? I need you guys come with me. We're going to his house. We're going to burn him on his own stove. See what we did there?
Oh,
And not, it's so funny how then they taunt each other throughout, and he's always like encountering like Danny at a crime scene. He's like, give this message to Vic. She's like, what does that mean? He's like, oh, he's just talking smack. Yeah, it's like, so. But that to your point, I do wish there had been an extra scene where they're like, Ronnie, what the hell happened to your face?
Well, even then, that whole storyline, the thing that I like more about all of that is that when Vic comes up on Armadillo, he is sitting in a very plain living room in a very plain house, just reading books. And Vic does not know how to respond well to logic and actual education. So the first thing he does is take the books and beat the shit out of him because that's the only thing he knows.
We saw him do that to that one pervy pedophile guy in the
very first episode, yeah.
And so, but that is true, yeah. He was, that also made me think he was probably the guy getting a D in like class, like cheating off someone's paper. He knew street smarts, but he didn't know, and I mean, it also kind of puts it in perspective. There's a reason he's stealing not only just from gangsters, but just in general. Like anything he'll find, he'll get a free Happy Meal if he needs to. He is that.
Yep.
Because, like you said, he does get desperate near the end, but it is also just funny how he kind of just he clearly doesn't pay attention to any kind of logic. But that wasn't.
Lem, you gonna eat them fries?
Yeah, he'll do something like that. He'll steal their food, and it's like, nah, he just ordered it just to have it sit there. But that is true.
Shane.
I mean, Antoine Mitchell definitely puts him in his place a few times too, where he's damn it, you're gonna expose me or possibly talk to one of the lawyers about me.
I love the interrogation between Vic and Antoine, and he makes him cry because he's showing his son taking up the ass in prison. He's like, damn, that was cold.
Yeah.
Like,
he makes all these threats. He's used to, and I mean, we keep quoting the Who Would Win podcast show. They have a great line called "Be the Bigger Shark." And Vic wants, what do sharks do? They go to places where they can get away, and it's like after a while, he doesn't know how to get away with it, other than play the one, special, ICE agents for fools, as well as some of the other attorneys and federal agents. And it's so wild too how they're devastated. You're like, my God, I actually thought you were a good guy. You know, 'Cause that's just it. He relies on his charm, and he only uses his smart ass humor when he's around Dutch. That's the other irony.
Yeah.
Obviously he's rude to every single suspect he breaks in, but he hides behind again the barn mentality of, oh, I caught this guy doing something, being a peeping tom, being at a crime scene. And it's so wild too how I mean, I love in the very final season when there's like a big jewelry store like robbery, and he just like takes one of the police cars and just rams it through the store, and he just blows it off. He's like, "Oh well, you know, the car was at the end of its life." It's like, no, dude, this cost the city a lot of money, and what are we going to say to the store owner? You know, he doesn't.
Oops.
He has a hysterical line when he's going after some of the remaining Armenian guys. He's like, "Any closer?" and his head's a pinata, referring to how he's gonna just, you know, the rifle would take their head off. It's just like, my God. And but yeah, no, that is true. It's like all the gangsters are like so read up, and that they know what to say before they even say, "Get me my lawyer." Like they are. I think that's what also set it aside too. It wasn't just about the interrogations. And trust me, there are plenty of episodes where plot B is more disturbing than plot A. Where you're like, oh, I want to secretly fast forward for the stuff with Claudette and Dutch at times. I'm like, oh, that really got under my skin. Oh my God. And
That's what I love so much about this show is the ongoing storylines. I mean, there are things that not only the main storyline, which literally comes to fruition in episode 1, but there are some of the other things that the seeds are planted in that first season that you don't get real payoff for years, literally. I mean, the personality traits that they had from day one in those scripts, they are incredibly well thought out and well written.
Absolutely. The dialogue is stylized, but it's got perfect subtext. It is never reliant on how well that actor performed it or how it was staged. Like there is so much. They'll have a lot of entendres and double meanings and just blatant ironies. It's like you say, like it's so that there's that one hospital hostage takeover in like season 6, and you're seeing you know, Shane rescue a kid in that. This is the same motherfucker who will do, you know, cap a guy in the back of the head if he can get away with it, you know. And it's just so wild seeing them be vulnerable or do a nice thing. Is like, and what everyone else, we know the truth, but the characters are fools for thinking, oh yeah, you know, they're a nice guy, and like, no, they're not a nice guy at all. And
they're my heroes.
That's something I wish The Sopranos had done better in some of its later seasons. They got so caught up in Tony's fall and everything, and it's like, well, I think the Starz show Power and the Showtime show Ray Donovan definitely owe a lot to the Shield in terms of, and very similar in terms of, you'll see people who are saying, oh, that's a good show, but it made me uncomfortable. And I think the Shield was definitely, to your point on the serialized angle, that was kind of the one where they kind of brought in the whole, this is going to pay off to this. The season 2 episode 4 is going to be referenced later in season 3 episode 9. You know, it's just there, because that is true. We had shows that were serialized, but they were often syndicated. So until you got them on DVD or even videotape years later, you didn't, you know, unless you were a regular viewer, you didn't know about recurring subplots or anything. You know, it was just kind of, you had to be there. If you didn't tape it, you missed it. You know,
it's like X-Files.
X-Files, same deal. Yeah, that plot twist is gonna actually come about in this season. Yeah, and I unfortunately, kind of like Highlander, people were so blown away by how weird it was versus actually paying attention to it. But yeah, no, I mean, Vic is also just interesting how he has a running gag of like just leaving something on Dutch's desk, and Dutch is like, can anybody tell that asshole to stop messing with me? And if he were any man, you know, if I were in his shoes, I'd be like, Aceveda's office now. Otherwise, we're gonna duke it out in the parking lot. Like just something. And he is a glutton for punishment. And it's so funny how Vic is such, bottom of the barrel guy. Like he will say like the smallest thing, and that will just wreck Dutch's day. And if it was, I know we've all worked in
Dutch's
different.
date.
Yeah, he'll wreck his day, and it's just like if it was someone like us, we would just be like, we'd blow it off, we wouldn't get, Vic is an internet troll, but we would have the
In
logic
real
to
life.
not, we would have the logic to not give him the reaction he's looking for. But like Vic will only keep picking on you because he's like a parasite. He will just cling onto you, and then he'll use some humor to shield, no pun, like himself from just what he's doing. And I think that's what was also really cool, is just calculating what trouble are they gonna go to just do anything. Like oh man, there's another one in like what season is it where they kill one of the gangbangers, and
that narrows it down.
okay, but it's a very particular murder that happens on their watch, and they cover up his body by literally taking it to like a still factory, and like all the molten like flames and everything evaporate his body, so they can never find the guy.
I don't remember that.
It might be season 5 or 7. It's very particular. Like they take his body to a factory because they know the feds are going to be following them. But I just like that. It's kind of almost like a true crime podcast. No body, no crime. And I think that's what was also wild too, is just Ronnie is pretty much the body shield, literally. Like he is always getting injured and everything. And unfortunately, they, like you say, that is kind of one thing I would do better. Julian, they really don't do much with after a while. After a while, he's kind of like Danny's partner. Then he's just, but that was kind of bizarre too, how they tried to.
Good evolution.
Well, I'm just trying to remember, because like other than working with Tina, like they try to have you ever tried to convert a closeted police officer into being straight? That was bizarre, and that was just so wild.
For that time frame, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
bizarre.
it's just like
we're straight washing you, boy.
There was that. Danny's
party.
Yeah, there was many parties and everything. When Danny's like, "Hey Vic, this kid is not yours. I can raise him right by myself." It's like that was wild. It was just like, and Vic, of course, instead of taking responsibility, like tries to act like she's a bitch and even turn his wife against her. And it's just like, my God, dude, take responsibility for your douchiness. It's just like, start paying alimony. You were using Danny, to get laid, not because you actually liked her. It's just like, and it is wild too how every once in a while he'll be looking in the mirror, and it's so wild when he's confessing his stuff and he seems bothered by it, but it's so funny how he, no one is going to be sympathetic to him. He knows what he did, and yet he never thought he would feel this way too. That's the other kind of ironic thing. It's like, my God, dude.
I don't really see that as ironic. The whole thing, though, is in that last season, you get to see the true Vic for the first time, and I don't think.
Okay, yes,
I don't think he's seeking sympathy for anything. He's really just wanting to be in control dick.
He's in control. I felt like he was either manipulating or using Laurie Holden's character.
Oh yeah, he absolutely was. Yeah,
but it's so when he was saying it out loud, it looked like he still had. Okay, so you're onto something. I will rewatch that scene. I know that it's so funny too when they're like, "This is such an embarrassment. We're just gonna transfer him because he's already figured out an immunity deal before we got all this stuff, and he's played everyone." And so that was also kind of cool too, just showing what a broken system this all is. So they're just like, we're just gonna have the feds use him, but
Yep.
he's not allowed to use a gun or anything. He's going to be just
Yeah.
doing desk work the rest of his life. And
Mm-hmm.
I know the creator Sean Ryan didn't want it to be that ambiguous, but I thought it was just hysterical how he has stowed away a gun in his
Yeah.
in his desk, and you're like, oh god, this is going to be a PR nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I don't that's not how I interpreted it.
Okay.
As a federal officer, he's issued a gun.
That's what
The punishment was not that he couldn't have a gun, it's that he couldn't personally own a gun. So he's locking it up at his
okay.
desk because he's not
Yes.
allowed to take it home.
Yeah.
That's what it was funny. Okay. No, okay, so I'm jeez, I need to rewatch it again. Yeah.
This is one of those things that the last episode of this I think is maybe, and I hesitate for a moment to say this because I'm probably forgetting something, but I think it's not just like the best ending ever, but it is the most succinctly wrapped up series finale that's not contrived on any
Yeah.
TV show. Like
True.
with Breaking Bad, there's a couple things that happen in that last episode that you're like, okay, really? No, come on, that couldn't happen. But with this one, the main crux of the episode is everybody is fucked except for Vic. And how do we
Yeah.
get him punished? The way to do it is to take him off the streets and torment him with boredom, essentially. And so
You were-
now they've
and-
removed all of his power, and this is the only way that you could do it.
Totally. And they had a great montage showing all the different people who had been wronged or
Yep.
as they were about to die, like even a cameo by what's the narc who
Walter Jones.
was that his name?
Are you talking about in the very first episode, Terry
Yeah,
Crowley?
yeah, Terry. Yeah, it's so funny how there's like a cameo from him again, but they had a perfect song set to it and everything. But yeah, that if Vic were to quit, he would probably be prosecuted by these guys.
Yeah.
And well, maybe not, but either way, yeah, he needs to work, so he's gonna stay there and just face boredom because he can't misbehave. And man, yeah, I mean, it's so wild too how so many other people. It was so wild too how Kavanaugh also breaks a lot of rules just trying to bring him in and just hangs himself. It's like, are you kidding me? You were so close, dude. But you sank to Vic's level just to catch him, and you're like, all you did was incriminate yourself. And
Massively underrated chemistry between the two of them.
yeah, Forrest Whitaker, he hadn't won his Oscar yet, but man, he had done other TV, but and much like Glenn Close, it was just showing you, hey, like I think it also just felt so natural. Like they just wanted a damn good actor. It wasn't about so much as just get someone's attention cheaply, put a famous
for
person
real.
in there.
Look, if they threw Denzel in there, it would have been a fucking hot ticket easily.
Yeah, it would have been too
Or no,
soon.
Sam Jackson. If it was Sam Jackson, they would have expected motherfucker to drop within 1 or 2 episodes of him being there.
But that's what's cool too, is just like they didn't need F-bombs to be good.
I know.
They could have. They had the freedom to. Yeah, but yeah, that is a good contrast, as you said, Ryan, with Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad it doesn't try to be Tarantino, but it does kind of go for some more dark humor to where you're like, okay, suspend disbelief. If had that happened in the first episode, you wouldn't have been along for the ride, but they leave it for the end to where it's tough to argue with as much. But yeah, it's like The Shield was kind of more, it's just like, it's just very taut. And I've had a friend on here before describe it as having kind of Goodfellas kind of camera angles. You're kind of minus the narration, but you're getting that same kind of, it's just like, man, please tell me what I think is going to happen is not going to happen. And then it also wasn't necessarily about just the plot twist. It was more all the other stuff leading into it. Like you said, just some of the other butter on top of the bread.
And they did a lot of old shots too.
Yeah, just like that.
The original Old Boy, not the remake. Because Old Boy came in 2000.
Oh, Old Boy
Shield.
shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Old Boy hallway fight. They did a lot of those pan shots, and I like that.
Yeah.
Like they kept to that, but they also did, your up close shots and then the back away views, and it really worked well. It was so good.
And the characters would always just say something very darkly humorous that just kind of put so much of it in perspective. It wasn't just about the shocking opening. And kudos to, unlike most shows, that it wasn't about, hey, someone's about to get murdered or assaulted. It was like, hey, we just found a body in a car and it's still moving. We just found this guy who claims to know like the secret to this guy who's been taunting Vic and the team. And I mean, and Vic, I do think Vic believes his lies after a while. He doesn't let them bother him, but he does do the whole, I'm trying to do the right thing, or I'm just going above the law. And it's like, sure you are.
I'm doing what you can't do, Dutch.
You're stealing money, sure, yeah. And there was that other guy who was like the hothead, Kevin, and same kind of deal where they're like, hey, poster boy, how you doing? And it was just so funny how they had him as kind of part of the team, and just like, yeah, no, this isn't working because Vic's having to be even more secretive around him. But that's the other thing too, is just like he would find something to nozzle onto, where he's just like, that's not a gray area, that's something bad, and you've somehow convinced someone to make that it was actually this. So I mean, I can only imagine an internal affairs report just being just a cluster where you're like, wait, what? And then this happened and that happened. That doesn't line up with this version of the events.
True story.
Oh man, it's so funny when they first, before they go conquer the Armenians in like seasons 2 and 3, and let them try to avoid their taunts for the rest of the series. It's so wild how they start off just stealing from South American drug dealers, and even retrieve a guy as he's fleeing the country in Mexico. It's just like that was where definitely set it up for, is like, they're not going to play it safe. We, the viewer, were kind of seduced by it. We could not take our eyes off it. It's like,
and when they got the money, like, that was the climax of everything.
And the dialogue is just so good at just, and like, just, they made you just like, okay, I don't like these guys, but you would even see fans say, I want him to get away, or I want him to get caught, it just, when you divide even your audience that way, but like in a good way, like you don't see people going all psycho saying, I want to be like Nick. It was just kind of like, you wanted to, it was almost Grand Theft Auto. You could see the story proceed all kinds of ways. It was an RPG that happened to be recorded and you were watching it. And
a big point about that, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but especially so am I. I'm in my late 30s. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but all of like LAPD and the offshoots that were all over Southern California at that time, they'd started to kind of bounce back from the Rodney King riots from the early 90s.
Yep.
Now
Rampart was an influence, but
right. Yeah. And the Rampart situation near the end of the 90s was the major inspiration for what happened with this. And so there was a lot of people back in that day that had the same reaction to the real life bastards, basically, as they did to the people on the show. There was a lot of people that said, so what? These cops are stealing from the crooks. Who cares? They shouldn't be punished like they're stealing from people off the streets, because they're not. Or these people, they might have roughed somebody up too much, but who cares? The streets are safer. And that sort of thing is what inspired this, because, I mean, honestly, juxtapose it to where we are in 2024 with, cop killing being one of the major talking points over the last decade. And
that's true too. I saw people
imagine if there was a revival for the Shield in 2024, how it would be seen.
Oh, wow.
I think so, yeah. But then I saw other people saying, "Oh, the show was only good because it wasn't PC." It's like, no, it was good because it was just such a well thought out. It's a heist show. It was raw. Yeah, it was a crooked cop show. It was.
The funny thing though is the people that say that they're kind of right. It wasn't good because it wasn't PC. However, they had a leg up on everybody because they did it first. So just like Breaking Bad, they didn't have to have
True.
5 twists in every episode. The shocking thing that kept you coming back was, oh my God, they're actually showing this on TV. By Breaking Bad, they had to say, oh, you're showing this, and also it's extremely interesting. The funny thing is with The Shield, though, is the writing is just so good. Even now, 20 years later, it still has that hype in every single episode. It still feels just as visceral.
I will often.
The biggest thing
sorry.
And the biggest thing is, The Shield came on the same time The Wire came on too.
Yes.
So they're literally side by side, but they're also night and day. I mean, Wire went further in terms of depth, whereas The Shield focused on Vic just being crooked and shit. You didn't get the exploration of how everything's tied together. You get that in The Shield, but not like The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
The Wire took you behind the scenes of everything.
Yeah.
And explored every outlet. Whereas The Shield just focused on the strike team, the gangbangers, the Armenians, FBI coming in.
Yeah, you want to talk good acting by a rapper? Sticky Fingers was amazing.
Yes, love him
as Kern Little, and I loved how Vic actually gets disturbed because he's been relying on him to kind of kick back some of the troublesome gangs that he's been trying to crack down. And when he gets killed in one of the heists that they do to make Antoine Mitchell, not mess with them, it's like, oh shit. When you're out of gun support, who do you go to next? Yeah. And but that is true. It did it first. It did it well. I mean, I use this definitely both of those shows as an inspiration when I write a script. Just what do I look for in characters? Don't get just clever. I'm not Tarantino where I can just have wordplay, but I definitely like an Aaron Sorkin or a Shield kind of thing where I make use of my time, the uncomfortable moments, and how the characters talk to illustrate the kind of world they live in. And it's so funny. My screenwriting professor actually caught on to me after a while. I was like, "Are you a fan of The Shield?" I'm like, "Yes." Yes, I am. He's like, good. That's a good example of a character's downfall, the lies he lives in. Perfect. The action suits the narrative, and kudos to how they film that. Like don't you love in that early season how Lim falls in love with like a gangster's like girlfriend?
Yeah.
And they use so much clever dialogue. They're like, "Oh, looky, Romeo's back," and I'm like, he does think he's Romeo. He's like, and it's so funny too how even though we've talked about all the different stuff that's foreshadowed, there's still just so many other surprises. Like I thought Lim throughout the show was just going to be a meathead with a shotgun, and then as it goes on, he's like, "Hey guys, we shouldn't be doing this." And having Tavon in there,
ends up being the meathead with shotgun,
right? And Tavon as the good cop who gets wronged by Shane, and he keeps trying to report him, and then there's just always something ironic that happens. And then how ironic how Mara, Shane's wife, is more diabolical than him, but since he'll do anything for her, he takes all her bad ideas that ironically not only overcomplicate their whole getaway plan, but also you do feel a sense of sorrow also because this compromises their kid and everything, and you're like, God,
what is kid special needs or something?
Vic's
child
kid with special needs.
That's right.
He had it wasn't
he had autism,
which was
they took a part of the show, and this is the only negative I have about this entire show.
I did too.
They have a throwaway storyline about vaccines causing autism, which is just fucking insidious.
Yeah, that was never going to date well, but I do wish they had actually been more careful with how they talked about it. But I think it was also just because of how kind of like Ritalin and other stuff, like people didn't know how they actually worked and everything, and how some prescriptions actually worsen so many different cases. And that was one.
I've been on Ritalin. That shit don't do a damn thing. Adderall stunted my growth. That was horrible.
Yeah, that's just it. And people thought, oh, this is good at concentrating. I'm like, no, it just numbs you,
And everybody's like, hey, let's rail a couple lines of it. It'll work.
yeah.
I mean, shit, my stepdad, him and his buddies, when they were in their van together, they used to cut coke and weed together and smoke it.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, no wonder you got anger management issues like you think.
But that is true. They didn't handle the autism very well. And I was just like you say, they introduced it and then they kind of drop it, and you're like, well, what the hell, guys?
Tell me more. Tell me which vaccine.
And yeah. So it made me wonder if Sutter and Ryan and company just read some random articles, but didn't have a complete story and just shoved it in there. It's like, well,
I like Kurt though, man. He told him something happened on Sons of Anarchy, and I think the viewers bitched about it or something, and he's like, "Well, fuck them. Who cares? It's my show." I'm like, that's my boy.
It was interesting how he said it too, where he's like,
Yeah.
if you have an issue with this, don't worry. You're gonna probably have issues with all the other stuff. And I mean, he treated that show as definitely more of a dark comedy, where he's like, everybody's gonna die, and they're gonna die in Shakespearean ways and other off-color ways, and you'll be okay with it because they're awful people. But yeah,
that serious finale though, that hurt a lot. Oof.
Oh yeah, well,
Fuck.
I need to catch up on Mines and all the other ones. What would you say is your favorite gangs on the show? Because I mean, Anthony Anderson, he had been in Badass and The Departed, but I'd never seen him be that diabolical.
Yeah, he was vicious in that. I liked it. That's why I always remember season 4 so fondly. I'm like, you have Glenn Close coming in, being the head bitch in charge. And
then season 5 and 6, he is just taunting Vic. You're like, oh my goodness.
And the way that unfolded so beautifully from the first episode of season 4, like, god damn, I was hooked.
And they're so good at showing how contrarian some of the guys will be at one point, where they're like, no, don't do that. I'm like, oh, but you had no problem doing something just as bad as this, in another episode. But
look what you did last season. I know.
Right.
But what about this season? That's different.
It's only okay if I do it. I have control over it.
I hate that shit. It's so
It's
funny,
just like,
though.
what? Okay. Karen.
You shoot him.
Yeah.
Shut up, Kyle. It's my turn. No, Karen. Get back in the bus.
Oh man, and that it was interesting too how just some of the other guys who they would arrest would have just the most unusual like confessions too, and you're like, somehow it would have something to do with the rest of the stuff, but it never felt like it was just tacked on just to make it under an hour.
And the fact that the cell was in the middle of the station.
Yeah.
That was
like,
nice.
You're not going to get anything done. And
Word.
They go after that one guy who, Emilio Verrill, who is also on Sons of Anarchy, plays. I like how they catch him like in like a tire and they're threatening to burn him. And then he comes to the station and ironically, that's where he dies. Like someone else is convinced to like give him a shank.
Yeah.
As they know he knows something, and you're like, good grief, this station is not safe.
They actually took the center cell idea from I'm trying to think where the hell I saw it. I'm thinking Third Watch, because I remember that one episode with Henry Winkler that's popping.
It's possible. They definitely took it from some other show that had used it and then enhanced it better, because I mean,
it looks so good because you walk into the barn and it's like there's the cell, there's everybody in there, and they have all eyes.
And the way they stage all of that, you have a sense of what's going on. It's not just the overused telephones ringing and people being booked at a desk. It's
literally a prison yard.
It is a prison, yeah.
It is. It's literally a prison yard.
There's a reason they call it the barn.
Yeah, because you have the upper deck where they can look down and check for everything.
That very first episode where Aceveda is in and Vic makes the off-color, line, which is not only it's so many things to illustrate the character all at once. He's like, not now, not here, not on Cinco de Mayo. He's like, okay, so he's a bigot, and he doesn't
he's
respect his boss.
Homelander.
Yeah, he's absolutely Homelander from The Boys. Yeah,
I
and
fucking love him.
he has, and everybody else is looking at like Aceveda, like, you gonna take that? And Aceveda, like, he doesn't even shrug. He's just like thinking calmly, I'm gonna deal with this on my terms. But that's the other thing too. Like, Aceveda lies to himself. I have this in control, and you're like, no, you don't have this in control. This dude, he reminds me actually of a few bosses I've had where they would let shit just happen. They didn't want to deal with it. I'm like, then don't be a manager.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast wrecks and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. It brings up the best parts of any kind of crooked cop and crime drama overarching thing, because like the mystery is well interjected, the action moves it forward, the horror moments and dark comedy are just the icing on top. And then to have, again, just so many, again, you know, it's multiple layers and you're crying because it really is that good. And then you peel back the other layers and there's extra stuff on top of that. You're just like, man, yeah, it's just, we've had all these dialogues open. Now, like Ryan mentioned earlier, there are just every once in a while, there's like maybe one episode a season where you're like, that halfway moved the plot forward, but it never got to the point where I was just like, I must skip an episode. I hate this episode. You know, I still learned a chunk about a character. I still, you know, even if a subplot wasn't as neatly tied, there was still just an interesting just outcome that made you say, oh man, can next week come any faster, you know? And it's also just one of those, like, I would recognize the actors just anywhere they went. And I said, are they going to play a character similar to that? Sometimes they were. The Ronnie actor, you know, he's been in some of the Call of Duty games back when they were in World War II era. But I loved it when I saw him on Major Crimes. That whole Closer saga is very similar to The Shield also, with how it shows LAPD politics and has people being assholes in the break room. But there was an episode where Ronnie was basically playing like a Fox News type reporter, you know, showing his hatred for immigrants. And I was like, hey, imagine if that's where Ronnie ended up. He was a crappy television guy, but I think he's definitely where they imply he's going to be, where he's in prison getting tortured by Antoine's guys. And he's going to die in his cell cursing Vic, a guy he once looked up to. But it is just so funny seeing, and the actors talked about it in interviews too, how they had to stage all that betrayal, you know. It's just so funny. And I never thought that was going to happen. I thought, okay, Vic's going to bring all these guys down with him. I never thought he'd actually turn on one of his guys. I thought he was going to just dispose of the one-off type characters, you know, like criminals he's doing business with, and he wants to not bring any attention to himself. But I do also applaud them for making this an accessible multi-character show, because it could have easily been, we're relying on the strength of one actor. You know, imagine this could have gone so many other ways. Imagine if Sean Ryan had said, I'm leaving as showrunner and creator. I don't want to do this anymore. That would have sucked. Imagine if Chiklis had a big head and said, you know what? I'm going to come to set late and be an asshole to everybody. That didn't happen. Everyone liked working with each other. Imagine had it been a lesser, production, where people hated coming to work every day. You would have seen that in the performances, and then you would have probably. They fortunately didn't have too many of that. Often, if a character left, like they didn't have to do any. And a total rarity, they didn't have to do any writing out of anybody. They were just always those semi-known, just reliable actors. I know they said Scott Brazil, who, if you look at his credits, he's done everything from Jag to Hunter, and he had become friends with the crew on Nash Bridges. So they're like, this guy, he's good with those cold opens and the office humor. And he unfortunately died near the end of the show, and everyone was like, he was our best director because, like any good director, like he kind of did what Antoine Fuqua does, where he gives them a hint about where he wants them to go in the performance, but like he would actually pose it as a question to them, like, Dutch, what do you think your character's feeling now that you're interrogating this asshole? Danny, what are you feeling right now in this cold open? It's like that, because they've never done any recurring roles, and so that they all credited him as like, this is the reason I grew as an actor. I'm like, see, that is amazing, because I hear all these other horror stories about directors who got fired, like they were talented but they didn't understand the tone or the style, or they pissed off an actor. So that is so cool to know other people were just helping each other out, and that's why the characters themselves grew. You can't say that with every other show. You see some where it's like, I'm glad you liked it, but I didn't like working on it. I'm like, oh, that's a shame. Can you imagine? I mean, Ryan, we talked about before. Can you imagine if someone on The Office or Psych hated each other?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these shows, they not everybody does get along.
Yeah, but they loved facing off with each other. Like, I saw how Chiklis would even go to certain people and like even brief them on this stuff. Is like, hey, this is gonna be a very traumatic scene. Are you okay? It's just. So it's like, that's cool that everyone would prep each other for all this stuff instead of people playing tricks on each other, or I'm going to trick you into hating this guy for real so you get that performance, no method acting really, It could have gone that way and it might have worked, but then you'd have them say, I'll do an interview, but not on a panel with this guy. Not over it. It's just so Shakespearean though, too. Like, without even preaching to the choir, like I almost see it as we, the audience, are kind of the choir, and we're kind of harping on what's going on in Act 3, where Lady Macbeth turns on her husband. It really is kind of poetic without even necessarily the poetry, because, like you said before, Vic can't read very well. He probably doesn't know what poetry is. He's just like, for me, it's Tuesday.
And everybody has flaws. That's the best thing about the show.
Yeah, it's so funny how Billings thinks he's actually helping out Dutch, but he's just a voyeur. He doesn't do any work. He's everything you think. That's the other thing too. Like, the minor characters were douchey, but in their own different way. And you're like, oh, Lord, I've known someone like that in my office job at one point. But he's like a whole new kind of suck, where he gives Dutch extra paperwork to do, gives him a crappy reason to back out. And then what's so funny is Dutch actually considers him a friend, and Billings is like so taken back by that. You're like, my God. It's so funny how Billings also wants to get a retirement pension for having done nothing, but he thinks he's entitled. So it's so funny too, because it makes me wonder what would have happened had Vic messed with him and converted him, said, hey, let me talk to the lieutenant and have you join my vice squad.
Oh, God.
That actor is a good actor, and he's gone on to do other stuff like Homeland. And I always like how I never know where he's going to be. I mean, that's the other beauty of just all these actors. Like, even the desk sergeant, like, I've seen him on some doctor shows and other stuff. I'm like, I think they're so good because they do have that kind of, they not only have the perfect facial reactions and they're comfortable playing around with their characters, but that's the other thing too. Like if you told them by like, hey, episode 5, this guy is going to show a different side, like they're ready to go. They're ready to build up to that, even if they're only in the background of the next episode. And so kudos again to like them outlining this clearly, because like we said before, there's so many other shows that just go for something cheap, and then when you think back on it, yeah,
And
that doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, movies are the worst. Like there are so many movies where you can tell they got pitched based on the stars and what the 3 different plot twists on the DVD were, and you're like, oh brother. So there was no coherent like beginning and end.
I actually ruined the movie Twisted for myself.
Oh yeah.
I did. I looked at the cover. I was like, Sam Jackson's the bad guy. And sure enough, that motherfucker was the bad guy.
Oh, that was the beauty of this too. Like we knew the hero wasn't really a hero, but he was the protagonist and he was a bad guy. But then, yeah, it's like we see other people on there and we're like, are they with him? Are they against him? Well, yes and no. And again, the viewers is just the voyeur. We're looking in on him and we're like, where is this going? And again, we mentioned the rawness. Yeah, there's so many times where a character would just speak about I mean, kudos to all the other subjects they did talk about, where you're like, they'd just be having just a random, what seems like an unrelated conversation. And then by the end of the episode, you're like, that's what this was actually harping on, this and that. And I think I just dug it too, because sometimes they would even do occasional montages, like, but it just started so strong and ended so strong. And I loved how, Claudette just has to transform herself. I'd already liked CCH Pounder as an actress, but I'm like, man, she is a badass. She's kind of the station's grandmother.
She was coming off of Justice League, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because she was the voice of Amanda Waller.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Shoot. And it's so sad when her final confession that she's she's got a terminal illness and she's being driven crazy by this guy who, again, usually she doesn't break in an interrogation room, and then there's the serial killer on death row who's, trying to piggyback on a loose end on how he got arrested, and it's just eating her up, and you're like, my God. And I think this is it too. Like, again, just there were so many different journeys that it took us on through, instead of just what's going to happen this week, what's Vic going to do that's awful. It would have these slow moments, but never in a way where you're like, okay, they're just trying to pad out time. They're out of shit. If there was that occasional moment, they still kind of made up for it by just having I mean, even the music really felt like it belonged in the scene. Like I could see that playing at an LA nightclub, or someone having it on their car radio. They seem like that. They seem like a rap guy or a metalhead. It wasn't just whatever. I mean, even if it was whatever we can afford. I mean, I know Sean Ryan said he was a big fan of Concrete Blonde, so that's why he played a lot of their music, because he used to be a DJ. And I was like, see, I think that's also the key. He used to be a DJ, an amateur DJ in college before being a TV writer. I mean,
tying into Sean Ryan, the Hats Off Entertainment guy I showed you on YouTube.
Yes,
I watched his vid about Nothing But Trouble and how Dan Aykroyd directed it and did a lot behind the scenes. He gave everybody creative freedom.
Yes.
And he set everybody up with their own monitors and stuff. And John Landis came in and said, "He's like, you got to get rid of all this." And I'm like, why would you do that? It's horrible.
Well, and Landis was the king. Unfortunately, I had to bring him up, but he was the king of, if I didn't think of it, you can't do it. And I think Sean is definitely the perfect example of, I don't have to be the first. I just, like, he would always give his writers some freedom to experiment with different characters, but they all were on the same page of, we want to do this and that.
Yeah.
And John Badham did direct a few episodes. They had some great guest appearances. David Mamet directed an episode, and that's why Sean and him went on to do the unit together. And the unit was just like a perfect like that show was like the most complex. Again, the Delta Force, they do illegal stuff, so it was a great just bringing in on just how the CIA commissions these off the grid guys who let their day job eat them up, and the army wives don't have anything to do except be mad, and fix dinner for them. So it was just,
He's not home. I'm gonna go fuck my neighbor.
But there's definitely a few Shanes, if not Ronnies, on that show. In fact, Ronnie actually showed up as a terrorist in the last season of that. But
oh god,
yeah, I mean,
I have something to do now.
I've joked before, where is Vic now? Probably at a January 6th convention. He is that kind of guy where he's probably at something, your worst possible event, and he's probably there. But the other thing is, he's probably in the last place where you expect him to be. I mean, they drove that van around so much as well. It was always so funny how they were able to cover that up and get rid of bullet holes that were lodged in it. Yeah, I mean, especially when they're crossing into Mexico, that was wild. It's like, what are they going to say to the border patrol guy that prevents them from searching their car? And again, yeah, it never felt over hokey. I know some people who said on rare occasions they thought the show went to fantasy land in that last season, but I think it was just, I really did think it was clever because it wasn't so much what sentence.
I remember the school shooting one.
And you're following just so much. Like, it's even fun how Vic even becomes a fugitive briefly.
True.
And you're like, so who am I rooting for now? Am I rooting for Shane? Am I rooting for Vic? Am I rooting for the cops to catch him? It doesn't matter. I'm along for this crazy ride because there's falling down moments at times where I'm just like, oh Lord, it's this dark scenario and it's and
I just wanted breakfast. Now I want.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, we mentioned so many just them eating, but like it's so pivotal. Like, it doesn't feel like they're just having a good actor just shoot scenery. It really feels like you're just having the day-to-day lifestyle and seeing.
And there was no cliche shit either. That's
the
gangbangers
were well defined. You got a sense of their own distorted viewing. I have, Ryan, a few times shown the pilot to a few people. I'm like, inspiration, take it.
Yeah,
just watch it, like, because
it's one of the best for that.
Yeah, and it doesn't try to do too much. That's the other crazy thing. Like, what we've talked about sounds like it's too much, and it's just like, it could have easily been too much, but they really were shooting as fast and as manic as it looks on screen. They had good editors. I mean, there were times where they didn't know what to do with certain serial killers. So again, that's why they would just take a vote. Do you want to do one more episode on this guy, as a recurring subplot for Claudette or Dutch? Or should we just, have them leave after one or two episodes? It's just,
I killed 50 people. Bye-bye.
Well, these writers are all still working with each other. What can you say about that? Because you see other guys who are like, oh, I liked him, I owe my career to him, but I would never, work with him again. He stole my ideas, or he was toxic. How great is that? It's like they're all one side of the same coin. They all have a similar style. They all have similar productions.
I think it boils down to the network itself. Like, if you're under an umbrella network, like, it's really good. But if you're with someone who is
Sean never got any notes from the network, surprisingly. Like, and he kept
fucking shock.
And he kept waiting. He kept being like, "Did I go too far? Did I upset someone? Nope. Keep doing what you're doing." And I'm like, and he's like, "I'll be damned." Yeah, like, because it's easy to do that, and I think so many others have just been so they've been, unfortunately, some of these writers have acted like Vic, that had come out of that scandals. It's like they take the power and then they abuse it, and it's like, dude, there's no need to be there's no need to be a jerk to all these people who help you out, and these actors still work together, so that's a blessing. That there's none of the animosity you see on screen carries off into the real world. So that, kudos to all that rare kind of profession, So when people say, well, you got to be crazy, I'm like, you really don't. You can just go home, and you don't take this character home with you, at the end of the day.
Unless you're Julian.
Oh, well, yeah, that is true. That's a good point.
Ouch.
And I think, yeah, I was devastated that day when I'm like, Jesus. So he had a mental breakdown. He shot his wife. He left his kids as orphans.
Yeah, that fucked me up when I saw it pop.
He's a good actor. I'm like, what the hell happened? And see, it was so. He was also such a minor character too, and he's just like, yeah, I mean.
That's the thing, though. This show, there really was no minor characters at the end of the day, at least in my eyes, because you compare this to almost any shows, especially the ones that were out up through this one. Literally, if there was a character in more than one episode, there was character growth. And on most shows, you cannot say that.
I mean, even the other crooked captain who basically mentored Vic, like he's only a few episodes, but you feel his essence in the rest of the show.
Well, even throwaway characters like Connie, who was a prostitute that Vic helped out a few times. There's genuine character growth, and she's only in like 8 or 9 episodes total.
That's true. We think, okay, he cares about her, but he's also taking advantage of her. And then, and it's so funny. He keeps lying to himself, saying, I'm doing a good thing. And it's like, yeah, and you're also an adulterer and everything. But I also like how they just got that all out of the way. Like, we know everything this person is. The fact that the whole Vice Squad is just very unusual with how they got dangerous stuff. Aisha Hines, this was one of her first roles, and she talked about how they all thought that out, gave everyone a backstory, and freedom to roam. She actually did kind of the physical arrest and everything. I'm like, good God. And
oh yeah, Gabriel Union was on there too.
Was she?
Yeah.
Episode.
She was, wasn't she Claudette's kid?
No.
Wait. She was a cop. I remember she was a CI.
Nope.
I don't think it was Gabriel Union.
It definitely wasn't there. I would have known. But yeah, to your point, I mean, they did such a good job of also just illustrating how these characters, like, they're explosive anywhere, whether they're at home, whether they're in the field, and the way they just would lean in on that stuff, you're like, where's this going? I mean, all the other shady people who Aceveda does business with, how he tries to convince that reporter to follow him around. Like, and it's just like, man, it's like all these guys are living in their own little world, and we have to suffer along with all the other people who are impacted by them. And just every character is legit surprise on screen. Like, it invited you to kind of see what they were thinking. It wasn't just, well, duh, it wasn't, I figured that out before everyone else did. You wanted to kind of just, it's like you're looking into a crowd and you want to see what everyone's thinking while they're watching this like sports game. It kind of had that, just everyone plays off of each other, and it's just, it really is just
it's
a
polarizing too.
It's a polarizing bucket of fruit.
It's like, this fucking fruit is so polarizing. Look at these strawberries, they're so juicy.
They're so good.
This apple, it's shiny.
It's shiny, yeah.
This banana, it's
well, it could have easily been that. It could have easily been a glossy but empty show. And kudos to all the filmmakers just being the types who just relied on I mean, the camcorder look was perfect. That gave it an indie kind of feel. And I loved how.
Well, this is way before fucking HD.
Yeah.
Way before. This is
and so that's what's so wild. I'm looking at the Blu-ray and what Hulu uses. I'm like, I can't believe it's so HD. That's not what I saw all these years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change it at all. In fact, that only makes it actually more gritty. It's not like other films where now you see detail you never saw previously. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it really, we're kind of going in circles, but I mean, it
Over
is,
time,
you know, something's good if you can just talk about it, again and again and again, and
yeah.
I'm sure anyone who rewatches it once a year, like they can follow a different story each season. You're like, this time I'm gonna follow and see how so and so evolves this time. I mean, I've done this with Battlestar Galactica. It's like I already know the twist with Adama, Starbuck and company. This time I'm gonna follow some of the minor techs who actually, much like this, do impact 5 other characters in the show. And so, I mean, because
And
like Reed Diamond, again, he's only in 2 episodes. One in the pilot as Terry the Narc, and then in other photos and footage. But Reed Diamond is a pro. Like,
yeah.
he said how this and Homicide allowed him to grow, and then bit parts and stuff like Spider-Man 2. But like, he also, he had been on other shows where, like, Wayward Pines, that he did. It's an interesting contrast. He did all the research where he read about the book that was being adapted. He's like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
I really like how I'm going to be on this and everything. And then unfortunately, new showrunners came in, and his character was basically a featured extra. Like, that's how he
Ouch.
defined it. And so he just sucked it up on that one. He's like, okay, I'm getting paid, but I'm not going to. I was ready to go and give you this creative juice, and you don't want any of it. So I'm not going to give you that. And that's okay, because you're not focusing on me much. So I think that's just it. Like, when you start off so welcome and you get everybody comfortable and you just show, hey, you are here for the long ride. You're not, because we like you or until we get tired of you. It's like when you form this behind the scenes creative family, you're gonna have good stuff. And instead of, because like you hear about all this other stuff, like how some of the characters in all the different Star Treks were there just to be a poster child, and they found out after the fact and were furious. They're like, Jesus, I thought that producer actually liked me, the liar, and you need to just be able to, not
Communicate
take
with your people.
communicate. Is like, I look forward to creating art,
Yeah.
and kudos to the writers, to be able to play off all this stuff and all have a similar mindset. They all like all kinds of different stuff, a lot of it the same. It wasn't ever, you never saw, because you'll just see some of that in those other franchises where people contradict each other or seem like they're jealous of the other guy doing a better job than them. Is like, we're all on a sports team and we all want to hit the goal,
Yep.
And really, and again, the fact that I can name more than just 1 or 5 characters, that's a testament.
And the best part about rewatching the show is
I call them by their character name when I see the actor. Yeah.
No,
Dutch,
the best
Lim.
the best part is your original favorite isn't your favorite. It's someone else.
Yeah.
It always changes because you've changed over time, and your thoughts have changed over time. Your mindset has changed over time, and your whole perception of the show.
What you thought that character represented doesn't necessarily represent that. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that was cool back then, but now
I thought they were a well-intended guy who happened to be the asshole. Is like, nope, they were a liar all the time, and they played us for a fool. Yeah, there's all kinds of other characters. Anyone saying I got it in one go around, you are lying to yourself.
It takes a while to get it. That's for sure.
But the fact that we're still thinking about it and we get shades of that, but it's weird. It's both popular and kind of underrated. Like, there's always someone. It's that weird kind of gray area where it's done a lot for TV, but
nobody wants to talk about it as much because it's offensive. No, it's not. You're offended because you don't understand it.
I mean, Breaking Bad didn't take off right away. The Office, same thing, didn't take off right away. That all these other TV classics from any other era, weren't famous overnight. So I mean,
it's true.
Star Trek was famous in reruns, not when it was on.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone had plenty of episodes that were banned because not because they showed anything, but just because they were disturbing.
You can't show that. That's horrible.
Oh, that's
Now
the
they show
irony.
it
They
again.
didn't even show anything, but they were just so powerful. Someone said, please don't show that except in the morning hours. So, I mean, I would see the CW air edited versions of that. There were other cable channels that did reshow it, and the other cable stations that showed it, I thought still did a good job of presenting it. It was just one of those, you can take stuff out. It's not completely impacted. It's not like you might get a use of shit and a bare butt that's edited out, but it's really, it's just one of those like, what again? I saw I remember being up one morning. I kid you not, I saw a trailer for both that and 24, and then the next morning I saw a trailer for The Wire. So it's just like
nice.
2002 was crazy, intense year where it's just like let's evolve.
Well, that was just after 9/11, so you had everybody on edge.
Yeah, we can't talk about real life stuff, but at the same time, we still got to have some social commentary and other stuff. And
can't do real life, but we'll do real life the other
people
way.
thought it was shocking, so they tuned in, and then it ended up being something more. I mean, I know other people who like all kinds of stuff, and they're like, that show was so weird. I don't know why I kept watching it, but they still gave it a positive review. I mean, I know other people who probably wouldn't necessarily like this, but they would watch it through and to the end because they know. I mean, it's kind of like how you see other people who don't like Westerns, but saw all of Deadwood, or hate fantasy, but they saw all Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. So it's like, well, it had something that made you say, this stands out to me somehow. It doesn't have anything to do with my genre or style preferences. It's just a good story, objectively. It
really is.
Like, if someone were to say, yeah, they stole from Tarantino, I would just be rolling my eyes. How? Why? No. I'll do you better. Tarantino stole from this. How about that?
Tarantino stole from something here.
He took something and put it in a blender. Like,
he stole from Teletubbies.
Even people, I don't even see many people. If I see anyone who just has not cared for it, and this is not to shame them, you like what you like. I'm just like, it's often just like, I don't really like crime stuff. And it's like, is that kind of person? It's like, okay, so you were never going to give it the time of day anyway. But it's just like, to even call this Serpico light would, it's like, how? If anything, this is Serpico on steroids.
I don't like crime stuff, but I'll watch Law and Order in the background.
Right. I hate sci-fi, but I love Star Wars. Yeah. I don't
like Star Trek, but I'll put it on for noise.
I don't like it when the protagonist is a villain, but I watch Sopranos. It's the best thing ever. Yeah, you will see.
I don't like women,
countries.
but I'll watch Charlie's Angels.
Oh my God, screw that guy.
For real.
And yeah, I haven't seen too many toxic fans. I run a Facebook group on it, and it's actually pretty well behaved. I haven't ever had to tell anyone, okay, guys, you're getting a little too over political. Like, surprising. I'll see people who are like, this show's a little too PC, but they're not to the point where they're trying to get in wars with each other and challenge each other. If anything, there's actually a few of them who are dedicated to talking about moments involving Shane or Ronnie, believe it or not. So here's some fanfare for you, Ryan.
That's good, yeah.
They live, but yeah, no, I see. I had no idea where this was going to go. I had my notes, and you guys had yours. I take it, but it's like, but that's also kind of the beauty of it. Like, to even, there was some great stuff on like the AV Club and other, like places that would do movie, video game, and TV reviews, and I think now I don't really see as much of that. Something somewhat happened between 2016 and 2021, because now I see it's yes, Oreo, but it's more than that.
Something happened.
Like, I kid you not, like, I will look at a TV recap just when I'm making notes and about to record an episode, and I kid you not, I would see people who were so frustrated. Why don't they wrap this up in one episode? I'm like, these are reviews for, I kid you not, like Lovecraft Country and Yellowstone. I'm like, it's a
No, that's
serialized
not how
TV
this
show.
works.
But it felt, I mean, I even saw a highly negative review of Ray Donovan, the movie, and it sounded like this guy was just like forced to give an editorial on it. It's just one of those, I don't get that sense from as many critics or even bloggers anymore. It just seems like they are forcing themselves to like suffer for something instead of like binge it, let it soak in, or just give it a season to evolve. Like, and this show somehow, like, it could even just take in a casual person and they're like, I'm gonna TiVo the rest, or I'm gonna get the DVD a year later and rewatch it. And so it was kind of that show where if you came in late, you were still entranced by like 3 different things happening, and you're like,
that was me with Babylon 5, literally.
oh, so
I
there you
bought
go.
the first
Perfect
season.
example.
When I first saw it, when I first heard about it on TV back then, I didn't care for it. I was like, fuck that. It's trash. It's garbage.
I
all
saw
that
one of the
jazz.
movies later on. Yeah, I'm like, I should get into this later. There's something very intense, but kudos to anyone who can do that too, because I see other stuff where that wasn't as kind to it, where it got impacted by writer strikes, or if you missed one, you missed it all. Like, it just, you couldn't break it down. And I think it helps that there are some visual stuff, but this is where it kind of even gets like the X-Files, where there is this one little underlying issue and it slowly blows up in everyone's face. It slowly becomes like, if it's not part of the bigger picture, it's now going to be a recurring issue. And it's not, again, it's not to be soapy. It's not just to, have cheap drama. Like, you're just like, man, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm looking forward to the suspense. Like, if they had kept everyone on a cliffhanger, I think they still would have had a good audience. But, Sean saying, hey, we got to come up with something and tie it up in 10 to 13 episodes, kudos to him, because like no one else, again, now that's second nature. Now networks playing ball saying, sure, we'll do 13 episodes. It's just a summer show, but yeah, it seems like, much like Oz, like it is a evolving show, but it just does not seem to get as much credit. I see people who don't even know anything about St. Elsewhere or Hill Street Blues. That's how.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's how old.
People aren't going back to watch those anymore.
Yeah, unless they have Hulu, they don't watch it. But I went through Elsewhere rather recently. It's a diamond. It's a great show, but a lot of people will just be like, "Oh, I know Denzel, the movie star." Like, well, did you see Denzel, the TV star?
Did you know he did TV?
Did you know he existed and played a complex doctor character? Yeah. And kudos to any of these guys who have been actors, who are now directing, and visual effects and editor guys who have taken off in their career. And kudos to all the other guys who were supporting writers who've gone on to do their own thing. I mean, we've all mentioned all these different genre elements. Those don't always mash together either,
That's true.
You'll see movies where it does a good job as like a horror or as a mystery, and then it has an action-packed finale, and you're like, that feels like a rewrite, And dark comedy, sometimes the cynicism can just be too much, or the off-color moments can just be like, well, that was shocking, but that wasn't darkly amusing,
Let's do something on color. Give me some Crayola.
They definitely took their crayons, chomped on them, and then spewed out something that was.
Oh, definitely.
It was one gorgeous yet ugly looking rainbow. It was.
It was awesome shit.
And that's the other thing too. Like, do you ever get a sense that people who might have been toxic in real life might have watched this show and been like, I'm looking at a mirror myself?
I can't believe I'm watching this and it's me.
I relate to Vic. No, don't do that.
Those people aren't self-reflective enough for that.
That's probably it too. They're enjoying all the gore and off-color humor. And I mean, we've already talked about how no one is the same person at the end of the show, but they're not even the same person by like season 2 or 3 even, like they keep. Dutch gets better at solving crimes. When he first starts off, he's just like I got you. And then other people are like, dude, I literally already got him to confess while you were gone. So it's his moment, it's his ego stroking. And it's so funny too how, like, even background characters, like, kudos to all the ones directing all the extras, and like everybody felt like they belonged. There was never a sense of I don't know what to do in this scene, you know?
True.
Like even just again, we talked about one-off characters. Like, it's so hysterical in that one episode, and this is talked about in even some of the recap podcasts. You guys would love the Shattered Shield podcast. We were going to try and have them on in the future because Livy herself is a very cool mystery writer. But
Awesome.
like they joked when they created this podcast, is like, why does a popular show not have a recap podcast? You know, and they love the episode where Shane is at the strip club and he actually believes that the stripper loves him. It's just like, so, but it's so funny because not only is every other person like about to be a victim, like even the villains are victims at times, and it's just outrageous. It's like a guy. It's almost is like the whole "don't bullshit a bullshitter." It's like, well,
Yeah.
bullshit these guys. They will buy anything because that's all they thrive on. And even and Vic, you know, obviously he buys into bullshit, but he doesn't care. That's the other irony. He does not care because he knows how to.
And this is a show with just actual three-dimensional characters. Most other
Yes.
shows, not everyone, you know, people are just good guys or bad guys. This show is real people. They're a little bit of both all the time.
Absolutely. And because they're not, you know, we've had it at work every once in a while. Like I had a coworker who died due to health problems. He seemed perfectly fine when I was there, but I wasn't in every step of his life. And so they really do take advantage of the whole, they're not in the same place at the same time. So they're always surprising each other. It's like, Julian and Shane have a cool friendship going because they bring that respectability to each other. And, and little does he know, yeah, Shane is actually a psycho who will die for Vic and then later goes on his own crazy streak. And it's just funny just seeing how Lim evolves too, in terms of he's at first he's the backup guy, and then he becomes just the guy who's like, okay, I'll do this for you, Vic, or you know, and then he becomes the guys, you know, I got a bad feeling about this. You know, and there's we can make a plenty of bomb puns, but you know, the show already has plenty of them. And you know, for Kavanaugh to evolve, you know, at first you think he's just, you know, pretty intense, and then you're realizing he's becoming unstable. He's got, you know, a wife who's, you know, bipolar and taking her meds, and Vic decides I'm gonna get close to her to get back at Kavanaugh. You're like, oh my god, sick fuckers. And you know, we talked about all the other one-off characters. It's like, but that's just it. Yeah, they're so three-dimensional. It's like everybody has a purpose. It's not I just need someone. It doesn't matter. You know, like you'll have a crime kingpin who's there, and he'll have just some matter-of-fact statement as he's getting arrested that just makes you guffaw. You're like, that's so true. They'll be arresting a prostitute or a drug mule, and he'll say something, and Vic will say, I'm actually here for this. There's that scene where he takes on a big Latino gang. You can YouTube it. I think the clip is Vic being a badass, and he's like, the guy, yeah, right. Where do you start? He comes to a meeting, and he still has a gun that has one bullet in it, and he's like, by the time you shoot me, you know, I already have shot at the main king. And even though that probably wouldn't happen that way in real life, it doesn't matter. The show has earned your respect because it's built up all that tension, all that stuff. And so, again, yes, it's a movie, it's not real life, but it's never to the point where you're just like, and I think it helps that everyone was along for all those 7 years. It was never, I got to get my replacement. You know, some shows are fine. They're all they're okay with different voices in the room. They evolve, but
Yeah.
more than half the time, the network gives notes, or they hire someone who's just said yes but didn't really know what the show meant. So
Yep.
thank goodness they. It's so wild how the actor Kenny Johnson, who played Lim, actually got paid for season 6, and he wasn't even in it.
Oh wow.
So
Well, that's probably because he signed a long-term contract.
yeah, it was something like that. And he was also, I think he said something along the lines like, I couldn't believe some people cried at that, some people were shocked, obviously, but in a way where it's just like, oh man. And it's so funny, like now we're seeing this with shows like Succession now, where some people didn't get the satire, they're just now realizing everyone's a bad person. I'm like, really? What? Why is everyone becoming dumb all of a sudden? But
because they're not used to it. And you have to remember, like, this show's 22 years old now.
We're still talking about it.
Yeah. Whereas new shows today they follow the coattails and they make their own layouts and shit that make them unique. And it's hard to top older shit.
I guess some people are just attention seeking, like they're trying to review something and then realizing I don't actually like this. People told me, you notice now how people, they used to, when you were recommending them something, they used to want to know the nuts and bolts. Okay, what's cool about that? And if it was similar, that was just easier to sell you on that. Like, hey, you like Matrix, you'll probably like Blade, or Underworld, something like that. And now it seems like people don't even want to ask the follow-up question. Oh, so why do you like it? Or why are you recommending it to me? Usually it's like, someone told me it was good, I trust them. I'm like, well, inevitably you're probably not going to like it, but there's a reason. Now I don't even get the follow-up. It's like, why do you like it or not like it? It's just sucked, or it's awesome, watch it. I'm like,
it had women in it, that's why I liked it.
Can you give me the elevator pitch, please? If Vic had an elevator pitch, he would stall the elevator and make it be 20 minutes, and you would still not have the whole picture, but you'd be intrigued. But he could do it in a minute too, and you'd be like, I mean, look at those trailers. You got everything you knew, but you also knew it wasn't just shocking. There's just the way it's filmed is different. The way it's similar, but it's different. And then, yeah, you've seen dirty cop movies and drug dealer and heist films, but it's just, again, it just unravels in a uncanny way. And again, like you don't want to skip an episode to get to that. It's not like a stand-up and you want to go to your favorite punchline. I want to see all the inner workings of it. I want to go through the whole journey again, because I also love how when they do the various heists, you the viewer are just blown away, but you're not actually getting off on it like they are. They're releasing on it. They're addicted to it, and you're just like, oh, and Vic's getting a divorce, and so he's devastated as he's coming home. He's thought, and see, he's told himself this lie, I'm doing it for them. It's like, no, motherfucker, you're doing it for you. But as Ryan hit on before, yeah, when everything comes down, you do finally realize it's like all these lies he's harbored, he's always known, but we're actually finally doing it. And kudos to him to always have a sense of mystery, and it's not just the layers, it's also just how it progresses,
Yep.
When you update your phone, you kind of also, kudos to those guys who update it, you want there to be a different kind of progress bar once in a while, or see the results as it's changing the system. And I think that's the other thing too, like they were changing, now FX is devolved, and they're like, that's how our network's going to be from now on, edgy shows that you play after 9 or 10 o'clock, and I saw it with all the other stuff they did that was horror or war related, and I was just like, yeah, but it started with this show. This show, like, it could have been on any network. I guarantee you, TNT wouldn't have known how to deal with it. USA would have probably said, "Can you film it dirt cheap in Canada? We'll greenlight it."
Can you cut out a lot of this stuff?
FX just wanted something just shocking, but with
depth.
they've always
and
been about
story.
edgy, and yeah, they
Yeah.
just are like, hey, it's cable, you can take extra time.
Mhm.
We want to. Their mission was we want to sweep HBO at the Emmys. That's our goal, and they did that first year. But like, Chickless is prepared with his speech. So kudos to all these guys. They knew their brand. You know, when he's thanking for getting the Emmy, he instantly thanks all the directors, all the writers, and the network. Boom. You know, anyone else would have been, oh my God, I don't know what to say. Thank you, baby Jesus. Thank my mother. You know?
That shit is so dumb.
I know. Everybody had something ready to go. You know, it's just like, so cool. You know, I feel like we've hit the nail on the head, but like, and this is also kind of a blueprint in a way. Like, you want to, when you go into a kitchen, you want to know also the kinds of pots and pans you use, you know,
Spices, all that shit.
Yeah, more than just how long do you cook it, you know.
And don't be using no Paula Deen shit.
Yeah, yeah. Don't even be using, you know, cheap Velveeta crap. You know, it's like, and that's what's also fun too. Like, we're seeing these characters as they're. I couldn't even compare them to other real life people. I know Chickless did, but like I couldn't when just taking it
You
in.
know,
Like,
if Sean Ryan, I'm really surprised with this, that Sean Ryan never got in touch with David Ayer.
Right?
They were hit that
Ryan
shit off good.
Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so like the closest you get is with Street Kings. Is like, oh, let's bring Whitaker and let's have another dirty cop turned hero, and it is interesting how, yeah, it's like they would totally work perfect together. But like you know, like Sean also just he wasn't trying to take off on a film career or even be the next Martin Scorsese or Nick Wolf. He's just trying to do what he's always done. I mean, he originally wrote a pilot script that didn't get used for the show Friends. How different is that?
Wow.
So like he was used to shopping stuff around. He was a nice guy. He just knew, hey, I like movies. I like to entertain people. I know how to humor them and put a smile on their face. So let's he's since gone on to do even just other comedies. He did one with Donald Logue that was about TV investors and businessmen in LA. So it's like people were like, that's a good show on FX. Why'd it get canceled? You know, so the network's still loyal to all these guys. You know, I know Kurt Sutter's working on a Western with Gillian Anderson and Lena Headey that's supposed to be his version of Yellowstone. He called it.
There's a massively underrated FX show that no one ever talks about, and that's Starved. I love that show. It is amazingly funny, and it has.
You're talking about the one with Queen Latifah and Benjamin Bratt?
No,
Star.
Starved.
Oh, Starved. Yes, I actually do remember that. That was like one season, and we're like, it was different. Again,
that was really different.
It wasn't trying to be just another laugh track,
and that was Sterling.
Oh my God, it's all on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That was that not Sterling. Yeah, Sterling. It was Sterling's first TV role before he did Army Wives in 2007.
Geez.
Yeah,
look at him go.
I know. I saw him. I was like, "Holy shit!"
There was a racial comedy show that Ice Cube produced. There was a
Black White. I love that. That is so underrated.
The one that I loved that no one talks about was an Andre Brager heist show called Thief.
I remember that.
And yeah, this is it. 6 episodes. It didn't get picked back up, but it won some Emmys, and there's like, or got some noms at least. I'm like, see, but they decided to again.
That's just like the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. It lasted one whole season, got canceled, won a bunch.
Jim
of
Henson was
awards.
willing to experiment, and they didn't give it a chance. So I mean,
and it won awards. That killed me.
Right? David Simon just got let go by HBO because they didn't honor the whole writer strike. I'm like, that is bullshit. Way to acknowledge your masters of entertainment. You know, it's just like, so I think FX has always been there, you know, even though they're, you know, Disney's overlooking most of the Fox outlook, they're still allowed to say, hey, you can keep doing something edgy with all the Ryan Murphys and other guys. Just have it get it done on time and let us market it. And kudos to all the extra names they're able to get. You know, because I mean, most movie actors did not want to bother with TV unless it was like something like, you know, the Muppets or ER. You know, it's like I'll be on something. You know, sure you can get Robin Williams, sure you can get Whoopi. You know, it's like yeah, but I mean,
Because that's an easy gig. It's not
it's
that
an easy
bad.
gig, but I mean, can you imagine how they would have probably pitched all these different roles to different actors? You know, it's like
Yeah, definitely.
sure they were auditioning and everything, but I mean, when I hear back on how they got all these guys, it's like they really were in the right place at the right time. But it was also they were gentle. I think it was just even though the show was urgent, there wasn't any of that like on set. It's like let's try this, let's try that. You know, let's do a version where we show this plot twist, and then let's do a version where we show something less explicit. You know, it's like it wasn't found in the editing room too. You know, so like so much stuff is on that first season. You know. Ah, man. And
look what we found on the floor.
Right. Oh, jinkies, a clue. Some ability I never knew how to do. Yeah. And
Come on, Daphne, let's go, Fred.
It's also just so much fun seeing how Danny kind of has a running, I wouldn't call it a gag, but it's a recurring thing where she's teaching the new person. And half the time that person is doing something, she's like, I'm gonna have to arrest you or suspend you, or oh, shots fired. My partner's just been killed. And she lets just even the most minor stuff like upset her to where she's like, I don't know why I'm doing this damn job. And it was cool because like much like Dutch was the straight man, you needed that person who was also just like, what is happening right now? Why am I here? And and she was having like a coming to Jesus moment like once a season.
Help me, Jesus, help me.
I have a kid and I will raise it and I will make sure Vic is nowhere near there. And so yeah, anytime I would see the actors and other stuff, I would geek out. I'd be like, oh, awesome. Are they going to do a variation on that same person or are they doing something different? You know, and kudos to them. They all have good agents. It seems, you know, I had no idea Walton Goggins could do deliberate comedy until The Unicorn. Then he did the SEAL Team 6 show. I was like, hey, you know,
now he's on.
Oh, he's on what now?
Fallout on Amazon.
Yeah, I need to see that. He came back on the recent Justified comeback, and I was like, see, I called it. I knew he was going to come back in some way. And it was really funny. I've been a fan since I actually saw him in Predators. It's so funny. That's the same year.
I love Predators.
That's the same year I got into the Shield, but at the time I was like, I feel like I've seen this guy. I'm looking at his credits, but I don't know what he's famous for. And fortunately, I was there from day one. I see the Shield. I'm like, okay, this guy. I was kind of that way with Frank Grillo when he did the Purge and Captain America. I'm like, this guy's gonna go somewhere. And it's somewhere good. I mean that in a good way, because like Chiklis, I had already heard the name, but this was, I mean, what a role. You get the people who once knew him as a bit part actor, and then Generation X, this is what they immortalize him from, and they're like, I want to now see what he did before he was famous. It's just a total rarity, and just bringing all these different talents together. I mean, when they talk about working with all these other actors, they're like, they thought they were gonna screw it up for the other guy, like, but they got comfortable. They're just like, they want to play off of them. Like, it was never, I'm gonna take over your show now, or this is my show and no one else's. There's never any territorial crap going on.
I think there's more freedom and creativity on TV versus film.
It is. It's just it had a bad name because people saw. It's kind of like with any genre. Have you seen the worst side of it, or have you seen the best side of it? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Video games. There are still good video games out there. We're just getting annoyed by the ones which are
shooters.
Having crappy updates, or the fans have ruined the experience. You know. And so Ryan, you watch this once a year or every once in a while?
This is my most rewatched show.
Wow.
Nice.
Everything I've ever watched. It's probably about every 2 years.
I would probably put it on in the background on Hulu. I'm gonna probably do so once I catch up on some other stuff for sure. It's just because I mean, it's kind of like a good book. Even if you know all the plot points, you still want to go and embrace like certain parts of it, and there's a lot of reward because we did mention some other good shows. Some of those are ones you really only need to do once, and it's not because it's bad, it's just it wipes you out. And this can wipe you out, but you still want to see how the cookie crumbles a bit. There's still just as much effective stuff.
Oh, definitely.
And again, you know reasons for why all the characters do certain things, but you know it's more to it than that. Hey, they're a dipshit, or they're in over their head, or this is where they really have had the mental breakdown and went apeshit. You know, they and yeah, I already joked about the HR. Can you imagine a counselor talking to any of these guys? So, Vic, do you feel any remorse for what you've been accused of? No, not doing it. But see, you know, he'd say something more than just that. Like, it'd be more than just everyone needs to get out of my way or something like that. I think the other thing is it could have ended so many other ways. Like, Vic could have had a getaway plan, and that might have been satisfactory, but it really did lend its own kind of voice. It's like, no, we're going to embrace this problem, but now we're going to watch over him the rest of his disgraced career. Like, I like how there's no one else in the office with him. That final thing is like, I wouldn't want to be in the cubicle next to him either. I mean, you see it also too, how when everyone's going to each other's like desk and everything, like they did a good job of kind of, instead of just the cliche, again, just talking on the phone or got someone who I'm getting a statement from, like they would have just so many other stuff. Like you would lose track of all the people being paraded in. And like you said before, the cage was like the main part. It's like, that's how you can buy into it. That the LAPD is experimenting with this, and even though it doesn't really necessarily always state Rampart straight up, it's also kind of the show's way of saying we're commenting on society. Well, let's say, for argument's sake, something like this happens. Here's what we're going to do with our characters, and here's the sandbox where they're all going to misbehave. And
yeah, pretty much.
And
well, technically, the sandbox is Farmington. And no, literally, it really is. The Farmington's the sandbox, and the barn is home base.
Yeah,
safe.
There you go.
Safe base. That's it. Yeah.
Safe base. There you go. And kudos to them, because they were actually out in LA, actually doing some of the on the spot stuff, and it just looked like they were actually running through traffic. How they blocked it off. And there'd be times where, you know, they'd be pursuing someone, they get away, but that's the point. Like they're not in their A game today, and they would say something that was telling of what's to come next. You're like, yeah, they're running out of ideas. And but they did so good at, you know, they can't be a team forever, but that's not the point. Like they're doomed to fail, but they're all gonna fail in different ways. It's like, yeah, this is anyone who I've seen so many great essays about this show. That's how good it is. It's not, because there's other shows that are good, but it ultimately comes down to pretty much the same punchline, the same damn thing. Like you could have one article about one single character or one type of thing, and pretty good for what we talked about. Like we said, there was like one moment where they had like one subplot that didn't go anywhere in one episode, but there was still an otherwise pretty solid outing. It's just like, so anytime there's moments where Shane or Vic talk about their early days that they unfortunately didn't build upon, but they kind of also had enough to go off of the captain who had groomed him a certain way and said, you're going to do this. And then Vic repays him by arresting him and looking like the good cop. And that was also what was ironic to me. It's like everyone has suspicions and has heard Walker, what he claims.
That cop's name?
He was played by John Dahl, who was on Miami Vice. But yeah, I mean, he's a good actor, and it's so wild too how his widow is played by Katie Siegel, who's later on, Sons of Anarchy, and married to co-writer Kurt Sutter. But
oh wow,
yeah, even just the other people, like everyone would have trouble just processing. Yep. I mean, even just one-off again. This Ben Gilroy was his name, and I just loved how, and everybody had their just bizarre, just how they revealed stuff. It was just, yeah, and you can't not watch this show. And well, what is? I feel like we have closed out the tunnel. Ryan, what have you been cooking on?
Too much. Well, since the last time I was on here, I started releasing a magazine called the Physical Media Advocate. You can pick that up on Amazon or in a handful of retail locations across the U.S., which is still insane to me.
Bingo. Yeah,
beyond
Amazon's always got it.
Yeah. Started a production company last year. I've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, working on some documentaries, and I do extra features for some of these physical media releases that a lot of the companies that I promote are putting out. So check those out. It's under Someone's Favorite Productions.
You've been doing some of those.
Yeah, I do all kinds of them.
Sweet.
Lovely. Well, everyone get their hands on the Blu-ray. It's got so many new special features. If you want, there is the 2018 roundtable with a reunion with the whole cast hosted by the main writer. I'll link it, actually. It's really good because they pretty much illustrate, like, they're talking about stuff, but they know how to summarize without boring or getting too full of themselves. And then they end up interrupting each other because they're like, wait a sec, I thought that, so they find out other truths about each other that they somehow never know. So it's almost like they're doing an interrogation on each other. It's fun. And
that's always good. I like that camaraderie.
You're right. Instead of one of them's just doing all the talking, and the other guy is interrupting them or bored or not contributing anything, just standing shy in the corner. But yeah, I mean, what a great time, guys. I mean,
yeah, thanks.
To be able to just describe the show, that the one that keeps giving,
Yeah.
Just so stellar, and again, guys, just go and rewatch it. Make your own thing. Don't feel like you gotta know someone who works, with Spielberg or
although it helps.
It helps, but I mean, don't rely on coincidence, and your name doesn't have to be Tom Cruise. You don't have to have done something infamous to be famous. Just try something fun.
Yeah, that's true.
And kudos to everybody, just because it's hard. It's hard to remind everybody the difference even between a homage now versus I'm inspired by,
Yeah, that's true. Like, I know homages really well. If I see it, I'm like, yeah, I remember that because that's from something else they picked up on. And there's other shit where it's just like, oh, you're just copying. And it's like, not the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely different.
Absolutely. And I'm going to link this to you now, my dude. I'll actually send this your way so you can watch it, Ryan.
I've watched it twice already, I think.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
On the Blu-ray is perfect. I do this a lot with some of the Office and 24 stuff. Is like, I'm seeing how they're making stunt stuff. I'm seeing how they're brainstorming in a writer's room. The special features are a star in and of themselves. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I love it when the people are pranking each other in the commentary track instead of just, but then they'll go back to form and provide some useful trivia. And it's like, suck it, IMDb. It's like, that's perfect. And there was a B movie I was watching one time, and Michael Madsen is joking with the director saying, oh, you went a little too far in that scene, and he's like, you're one to talk. This is cool for them because like they evolve as their own kind of storytellers, and so best of luck to them. If I guarantee you, if one of them decides I want to direct a movie, all those guys are going to start working together, and Sean's going to do the funding.
Probably.
Yeah, he would.
And it's not just going to be we'll do it and we don't care. It's going to be we're going to put on another show that obviously people will go and see anything we're in, but then we're just gonna do a kick-ass thing with our resources. Once again, always a delight, always a dynamite chat. And again, you guys are troopers. Always enjoy talking to you. So Ryan,
Thanks.
you guys rocked it. I will let you have a fun rest of tonight.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up